Welcome. See to it that you sit comfortably. And start by just noticing what is here. Stand completely in the awareness of this moment. Noticing the experience of the body, emotion, bodily sensations, whatever it might be. If thoughts arise, notice that thoughts are arising. So much of our experience is imagination. Is our idea in meditation what is going to happen? And how that will occur. Those ideas are part of the hindrance, the obstacle in meditation. Meditation is simple. It is just allowing this moment to be as it is. But at the same time, it's difficult because you are somewhere else. You have the idea of the person. You have the idea of your agenda. What you want from life. But at its core, life is just happening. And it actually goes beyond that, because it's not really happening to anyone. This freedom, the freedom of just being, is there for everyone. The accessibility of it is total. and your longing to come back to it time and time again when you lose yourself in the ideas, in the trance of the mind. This is sadhana. The remembrance of this moment. The egoic mind tries to force this moment into the mold of its own ideas. And I assume that you come to listen to me because you're tired of that work. You're frustrated with the egoic mind. Tired of the heaviness of separation, and to always identify as a someone. And being in this moment is not an idea. Ideas always come with a should and create a heaviness. If that is what your sadhana does, creates this heaviness, then your sadhana is just an idea. What is your practice without imagination? What is left? What is this moment we are without trying to create anything? And the thoughts might say, this beingness thing sounds great. How can I be more? That is a ridiculous notion. That can only be posed by the egoic mind. Beingness in itself is already total. There is nothing that can be added to it. And the only thing that holds you back is your beliefs. Those beliefs that are very normal for most people. The belief of being separate. The belief of being a doer. And I want you to notice and be aware of how life unfolds. How is everything happening? Is it happening on command? What is the naturalness of being? What is it to really be in alignment with what is? Is it another task? Is it another doing? And what is it to refrain from doing? Is it to resist everything? What does that create? And who is resisting? The mind thinks like this. It says, you're for or against. It just sees control or chaos. But that is not the actuality of things. If the mind is involved or not, things are just happening. If you don't touch thought, notice that your life continues. You don't become passive, you just become natural. And you can say, but it's so much effort to stay aware. Until you notice that there is no effort in it. The effort is to fight with the mind that has a different agenda. Because it's like serving two masters. You try to stay as awareness, but you also listen to your mind. Then you have to go back and forth, back and forth. But since there will be friction, as long as you go with the egoic mind, the more you stay as awareness, the more you will notice that there is freedom in just being. And the egoic mind can try to convince you of some pseudo freedoms. But don't believe me. Don't create another idea of it. Explore. See for yourself. You can open your eyes, you can move your body if you need to. Make your meditation your own. It's so easy to externalize it. To see it as traditions, the following of a teacher. But when you investigate, when you stay as awareness, at some point you will start to feel that you are the meditation. When you come to me and say, I don't need to come and see you anymore. This is my happiest day. When there is no need to be reminded that the whole notion of it feels ridiculous. It's such a blessing. This space. Watching the unfolding See what the mouth will say. Is there any questions today? Our relationship to our sadhana, our practice, is a very intimate thing. And it's very difficult to put into words. What is it that draws you into the practice? What is this underlying intuitive sense? That's often mixed with the ideas of the mind. But there is an underlying current that wants to know. Why are we here? What is this? What is the purpose of this? What is the meaning of the shapes and sounds and colors of our experience? Is it just to creatively play with it? Perhaps. But also, what is the innate quality of it? Is it personal or impersonal? Is it spontaneous or controlled? And what is it that you gain from one view or another? And in these shapes and colors, all these things that come and go, where is happiness hidden? Is it in the things? Is it hidden in ideas? What brings true contentment? And what is your idea of happiness? Is it just excitement? Many people live for a happiness that is excitement, but that is an idea of a potential future of happiness. I want you to look at these things. Because so few people do. The ideas of happiness are often just inherited. You just have the sense that these are the ideas that bring happiness because you heard them in your life, from your surrounding, or maybe from your own conclusions early on, and then you just stick with it. And if you had some sense of deep fulfillment in the past, you might get obsessed with coming back to that again. These are also all ideas in time. And what brought you that contentment in that moment was that you didn't want to change the present. Most people are completely unaware of that and think that the achievement of something created this moment of peace. But that is not true. And again, please don't believe me. Look. Don't make it into another nice philosophical thought. Please look. What creates contentment? And why is it so elusive? Have you ever been sitting in meditation and you start to feel it starts to be peaceful, and you have a feeling that I want deeper, I want more of this, and it just goes away? I think everyone has had that experience in meditation. You say, this is it. Now I'm going to get it. Because identification always creates fragmentation, and you move away from the sense of being. Because the sense of being is, in other words, also a sense of unity. So as soon as the play is there with the dual, it goes again. And you might say it's super frustrating in meditation when this happens. But it is exactly as it should be. When you go into duality, you should experience separateness. You should move away from the contentment of this moment. Because that is just how things work. And instead of trying to mold the universe and your meditation to your idea of meditation, look what it is. And if you start to realize that it is showing you, its purpose is not making you frustrated, it's just showing you what is. And I know that this moment might not be what you wanted, what you dreamed of, what you asked for. But it is perfect, because it is what it is. Even in all your uncomfortableness, all your distress, all your anxiety, and I understand that you can feel sadness when you start to realize that happiness is not out there. When the ideas you have of fulfillment, and perhaps in your life they get fulfilled, your ideas of happiness, but you don't feel fulfilled. You notice that the mind is just going for the next thing. It has a short spell of feeling a bit half content, half restless, and then it goes into the next thought. When that moment happens, and I'm sure you all experienced it at some point, that it was a conclusion of something. Something was done. If it's big in your life, you can even have a sense of almost feeling depressed after it. This is the void where the mind is looking for the next thing. Because that place is scary. Because the ego has nothing to do there. And you think that you're going to feel some great excitement with it. And you're left with being in an emotional desert. Stay with that. Allow that. Allow that space of restlessness. Because that is one of those gaps that no one looks at. That most people are just so uncomfortable with. Do you dare to stay with a sense of meaninglessness? You try to infuse purpose into everything so that your life feels colorful. And as soon as you approach the sense of something is final, you have this sense of a loss of meaning. This is not dangerous. It doesn't have to be fought at every turn. Stay with it. See what it is. See how the mind really wants to get out of it because there is no space for it. All kind of completeness is not the egoic mind's domain. It doesn't want things to be final. It always wants there to be some way to continue. Because then the narrative and the egoic mind then stays relevant. If there's nothing to continue, what can it do? And it's the same if you have gratefulness for this moment. You just feel so grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And in that gratefulness, there's no continuation of things. There's no nagging but. It just is. And I know that you all experience these moments. But maybe you just say, but I don't like to be restless. I don't like to be bored. And everyone else agrees with you and say, yes, you should start a new thing, you should do this and this. Just look at it, be with it. See what it is. See how the egoic mind twists and squirms in it and is uncomfortable. What is so dangerous with that? And when you see that movement and how the egoic mind tries, you're seeing deep into its game. Because its game is just to continue, no matter what. It just wants the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Because fulfillment is not in the nature of separation. It always says that it's looking for fulfillment. But how can there be fulfillment in separation? You will always feel like there is a need of something to be added to create a sense of completeness. It is in the nature of the dual. Otherwise, the story would end. But the egoic mind always goes, what's next? Okay, done. This is done. Okay, what's next? How do we go further? How do we create more? And when the interest in that changes, when you start to want to know, there's a lot of uncomfortable feelings because you don't give space to this story anymore. And the egoic mind comes again, tries to push some buttons. This used to work. Let's try that. And you will notice that the story goes quiet. That they very naturally become spacious. The mind becomes spacious. And if there is no space in your mind, if it always constantly there is a narrator talking and everything is defined and judged constantly, then that just means that you are not aware of what is going on. And the spaciousness can come very quickly. There's no need for a long time in practice or any particular rigorous practices. It's just to be sincere, to be very honest with what is there. And not trying to escape the mind on every turn, because that just serves the whole idea of separation. So what are you beyond words? What are you without ideas? Is there still something? What is that? Without image of yourself as a doer. Without controlling, without categorizing, without trying to fix this moment. Because there is an isness even when the mind is quiet, right? A sense of I that is not stuck to anything. A sense of I that holds everything. Notice. There is even the possibility of talking without words. Without a narrator. Can you follow that? But words are just happening. As every moment unfolds. The silence that every word comes from and falls back into. And what use is there for words when the silence conveys everything? Why fight with defining things that are not possible to define? When you yourself can so easily go back into being. In this moment, come back to just noticing, thinking. Noticing this voice. What is there to get or obtain? What part of you is improving? Does any part need improving? Well, the mind might say, if I just get rid of this and this, I would be more silent. This fear, this trauma, my nostalgic disposition, whatever it might be. but you won't be able to pluck out anything. All you have to do is to recognize its unreal nature. And that happens in being. And the question, what do I do in meditation, is always derived from the same place. That you are someone that needs to do something to get somewhere. That is the problem. That idea is the obstacle. The belief in that idea. And you might go around to different meditation teachers and you say, they all give these vague answers. They don't really answer my question. They start to talk about something else. It is because the question is wrong. And when the question is wrong, the answer can never be right. If you really want to answer that question that is already based on a false pretenses, it will always be not true, the answer. So, how do I meditate? You have to look at who do I think that I am? Who is exploring this? Is there a center in the way? That you usually refer to it. Are you a person meditating? Can you understand this question? Is that a part of meditation? I was so confused the first time I heard one of my teachers said that you and your practice is the same. You and your sadhana, same thing. I was like, what? The thing that I do and the thing that I am is the same. How? How am I meditation? I thought that sounded impossible. And of course it is, from the idea. The idea of what meditation is and the idea of what the meditator is. That is an impossible thing to solve because they are different. One thing is a doing and one thing is the thing that I am. And how can they be the same? It made no sense. But if everything is beingness, it makes complete sense. And what we refer to as beingness is the same as meditation. But you won't be able to solve this one with your mind. I'm sorry.
Try harder.
There is only one thing that the mind can help you with in this. And my teacher explained it like, if you have a thorn in your finger, you can take another thorn and pluck it out. And then you throw away both. And this is how inquiry works. You ask questions. Is this making me happy? Who is having this experience? Who am I referring to as a person? And you're not looking for an intellectual answer, because you don't need more thorns. It's enough with two. And I think that sometimes when people hear about non-dual meditation and Vedanta, and you hear about contemplating on things, it feels like, no, but I should just be in silence. Why should I question the mind? It just feels like more mind. But these kinds of contemplation on what is happiness, what is freedom, who am I, all these things, if they just take you to a place where you are not certain anymore, and you used to be certain, that is great. Then the mind is starting to open up to something that can be experienced as real. Before that, you're completely stuck in your mind. And everything that pertains to your identity is connected to a thought, an idea. So you have to be able to question those things. And good questions are also, is there such a thing as the external? Most people treat life in that way. Is that really true? And what does that idea come from? Why do things seem dual? What do I refer to in myself to create that? Where does it come from? Does duality come from others? Many people in our society says that it does. Look at this group. They enhance the sense of separation and duality. And they all point fingers at each other. But it comes from the idea of separation in everyone. If you have a sense of being separate, you will do things that create duality. And the greater the awareness of it, then you will start to be a bit more careful with pushing your agenda into the world, because you start to understand that it all comes from me. And it's so unconscious, and it happens all the time. So start here. Start to see what this experience is. And when you refer to your world as internal or external, to whom is that connected? Everything is given to us. We just have to be aware. We just have to notice that it comes and don't dismiss it as another thing and experience that we don't like. It's so easy to do that. That's why I'm pointing this out. The experiences that come, they tell you about the nature of reality. And if you don't listen, it will seem like the same things are happening over and over and over. Because you will project the same things, so you will have the same result. You will say, I always get frustrated by this. Da, 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 da. That is the result of following the same things. Of expectations, all these things. The greatest teacher is life itself, how it is happening. And that is, when you start to see that, that is what I call when it starts to come from you. And it's great to have a more experienced external teacher, and that teacher will appear in your consciousness when it is needed. There are so many ideas of choosing and control, but it is just happening.
You talked about questions that makes the mind uncertain. When I was a child, me and my best friend, we asked ourselves questions like, has the universe always existed? And when we thought that question, we kind of got dizzy and empty. And will it always exist? That was impossible to think about. And we asked, is there a limit for the universe? And if there is a limit, how will the border look? And what is beyond the border? And does that has anything to do with what you're talking about?
Yes, and there are some traditions that have that these kind of questions where they are very famous, like in Zen. I think many of you have heard about koans in Zen, and that is just, what is the sound of one hand clapping? What is how does your parents' face look like before you were born? All these kind of things that are not possible to answer. And they're made for just that, bringing you out of the... But koans go very deep, and all these questions that pertains to reality has that quality. If you just, it sounds like a simple question, what is happiness, for example. But if you go all the way with what is happiness question, it will not have an intellectual answer. Because you have to have some experience, of course. You have to have some wisdom to understand that happiness pertains to the now. If you're just in your thinking mind, you can have all kinds of complicated answers to that. But as soon as you start to understand that it has to do with the experience of the now, it will always take you there. Also the question, who am I, is the same. Where does it take you? Where do you find this point of reference that you refer to as I? If you don't find it, if there is no experience of I, there's just the repetition of the egoic mind, then it starts to show you, okay, there is no center to this experience. And for some people it takes a little time because they have a lot of identification with the body, they have a lot of identification with ideas of who am I. But as soon as you look, there is a possibility of a different outlook. And for many people, there's a recognition in that. They remember when we were a child and they did certain things and how that beingness felt. Ah, I know this. You might say, I recognize this. Ah, when I was looking at birds from my window when I was a kid, I just looked at the birds for such a long time. That is the thing. But usually the story takes over and you just say, I liked to watch the birds when I was a kid. And what you liked about it was the contentment of this moment. And you might even say, yes, it felt really profound. But if the mind gets hold of it, it can just be another thing. I like that. Stick it to the idea of the person. We're always looking for beingness. We're always looking to be with the present moment as it is. Whatever motives people say that they have, they're longing for that. This is the deepest thing in us. This is the core of our experience. But as long as we believe in the duality, we believe that we are a separate person, there's a separate universe, I can get things for me, all these kind of things. I can go to the next thing and the next thing. Then you can just continue doing that for as long as this body is present. And you see it in people who make stupid amounts of money. They still keep going. They don't come to a place of, oh, I made enough money, so I'm set for the rest of my life. I'm done now. They don't do it. I've heard of very few people who do it like that. They always just continue. Because the egoic, that's how dukkha works, how discontentment works, how the sense of being dual works. It is never enough. Even if you have billions, it's not enough. It can always be more. That is the egoic mind. That it is its nature. And it's good to explore it a little bit. It's good to have the taste of that you fulfilled some of your things that you dreamed of. Because then you notice that it gives you nothing. You can have a nice story about it, how precious it is and how beautiful and all the gratitude you feel about it. But if you look at what it does for your happiness, it does nothing. If you still feel separate and you still struggle to feel that sense of separateness, you will still be in the same struggle. And again, I just want to be very clear. Don't just believe me. Look into this. See if it has any truth to it. And from an experiential level. That you look and you experience and you see. Because it's so easy to take the ideas and to believe them and to just hold it on the surface.
wonder about something you said about purpose or meaning. I think most of us probably grew up in a culture where life is meaningless. There's no meaning in a material world. There's no God. There's no God in Sweden, and there's no meaning to the world. It's just all stuff that happens, atoms spinning, and all that kind of stuff. But I wonder if the meaning of life is just life, or what you think as to whether there is a meaning behind our individuations of awareness.
There is not really a meaning in the sense of that there is a strong purpose like that. Like people can talk about there is a purpose for everyone, this kind of everyone should just find their purpose in life and this. But there is a sense of there is a sense of purpose in just being, because it feels like this moment is as it should be. So, because when you have lack of meaning, that means just separation. So you will always feel that lack of meaning in the experience of being separate. That is the quality of it. And you can have a sense of purpose in the dual, of course. And for many people that is very important. Just to feel that you have a place somewhere, and that you feel at home, that you feel accepted as you are, all these things. But they pertain very much to the sense of duality. But they're also needed. And I have to say that, because if you have a sense of separateness, and you just discard all things that has to do with being comfortable with being separate, it would be so harsh. It will be too harsh on you. So you have to be in alignment with those things in your separateness, and in that being a bit comfortable in your separateness. And also, I know that like just that we meet like this, groups like this, have that sense of, this place, here I can talk what's really in my heart. How I could never talk in my workplace, or perhaps with my family, or in any other, perhaps not even with my friends. I can talk in that way here. So that creates a purpose for that. I just want to be clear with these things, because they're sometimes in this context very much disregarded. That is the purpose. And that is a sense of purposefulness in this. But the true purpose is that I don't really want you to come. I want you to say, I don't need to come to you and listen to this anymore. But it's a great way of investigating, to be with others that are looking at the same thing. It's so easy if you're just in contexts where you talk about external things and mind things, that you get completely caught up in that. That there is never a break from that. There is never a question that says, who are you? What is beingness? And we can truly talk about what is the purpose. And I remember when I started to first investigate meditation, I was so keen on getting a good answer to the question, what is the meaning? What is the purpose? And I remember that I was really just looking for a sound bite. You understand? Something that I could say if someone asked me, I could seem smart. I had a really good, well thought out answer for the question, what is the purpose of things? I would, of course, not confess to that then. And it's also okay to fail in meditation. I jokingly say sometimes that I'm a really bad meditator. Because I did all these things, failed so many times. Did things for the wrong purposes. Tried too much, too little. Get caught up in the mind. But these are the teachers. Those are the great teachers. It's a beautiful thing to have the realization and that you feel really stupid of how you how you went about things. That's beautiful. And I think that is also why it's so important to laugh at these things sometimes. Because it's so easy that it gets super serious. We talk about this very serious subject now. We talk about what is the purpose of life? What is the essence of being? It can seem so profound, and it is. But if there is no playfulness with it, you also can really get into this mode of being super serious with it. And that is just another trap. That is just arrogance that says, I'm doing something super important. It's just a play. It's happening. And you don't know what's coming next. And if you don't resist it, it's beautiful. It's so unexpected. It's crazy unexpected. And it's playful. It seems to be in the nature of things. Any questions? No. Clear as day. No questions on anyone in the stream? No. Hej. Hej, jag hör dig.
Hey.
Hej.
So I heard you once before, and you talked about belief also as like one part of your practice, and I found it very inspiring. And I was wondering if you could say something more about like belief as a part of a spiritual.
I think that I usually don't call it belief. I call it faith, I think.
Yeah.
Or trust. Yes, that is what you're referring to, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes. And for me, those we can just define those things, because I know that in certain traditions, like belief and faith are like interchangeable words. But when I usually talk about belief from the standpoint of the ego, like the ideas of the mind. And when it comes to faith, it's just to give yourself to something greater. And it can sound very created. I had a feeling of that at first, that when I heard people talk like that they give themselves to something greater, it sounded like, yeah, you believe in something that you have convinced yourself of. But that is not my experience of it. Because the naturalness of being with the present moment is to have faith. Because that just means that the present moment is happening as it is happening. And that is a naturalness. And all things that you adopt in your sadhana, in your practice, should have that quality. They should give peace of mind, and they should be natural. And they can at first seem like something that is imposed. For example, just coming back to awareness time and time again. That feels like a sadhana which is really strenuous, really you have to work hard with it. You have to break like the old patterns of the mind. But at a certain point there is a naturalness where you can just rest with that awareness. And the same thing with faith. When you bow to something greater and you say that I'm not the creator of my life, it is just life happening. There is a naturalness to that, because that is in alignment with how things are.
What would you say faith is in Swedish? Is there a word for it? I think that's why I said belief, because I would say true.
Yes. And tillit.
Tillit.
Yes.
Thank you.
So,
Continue.
But it is a very, I think it's a very overlooked part in meditation practice. And for many people there's so much resistance to it. Because it gives the feeling too much of it being a religious thing. And but in that, when I understood the part of faith in your sadhana, I also understood why all religions do as they do. I understand what that comes from. Even if it's sometimes blind faith and sometimes a strange idea of what spirituality is, it comes from this. It comes from trusting something greater than yourself. And I noticed because when I was in the ashram in India, there was a lot of people from India there. And they had almost never any problems with that part. They just grew up with it. And I met also other meditators here that grew up with a very natural relationship to God or whatever sense of faith that you have. And they just, this is so simple. But when you come from the background that how I was brought up, with religions being the causes of all wars, we have an academic approach. Science is everything, and these kind of thoughts, then it can become very, very difficult hurdle to incorporate that sense of faith. But it will be unavoidable at some point. You will feel like you are walking in the desert without water if you never touch it. So it's you don't really have a choice at some point, because you have to let go. You can, of course, all your life keep really hard this idea, everything is up to me, I'm the maker of my own happiness, and hold on to that. And many people do, but it will never give that, it creates so much duality. It creates so much sense that I am this and this is the world. And if you're interested in knowing what your experience is and what you are, it's unavoidable to touch this thing. You have to touch faith at some point. You have to trust. You have to trust that the universe is good and that it shows you. Yes.
Would you like to share with us how you practice faith?
I think that it's a very individual thing.
Yeah.
And
I feel it's a very private question to ask.
Yeah. No, it's not. For me, it's not. It's fine from that regard. But I could never anticipate how that practice would be, because I had so much resistance to it. So when it started to show that it was needed, I started to have the feeling that I could bow to things. Shiva came to me. I felt like bowing when I saw Shiva. It felt very precious to me. And I always like to sing. I come from a family where everyone sings a lot. So for me, singing was also a big part of it. But how those expressions were, I could never have... if you would have told me that would be the practice, I would not have believed you until it happened. So that's also something that just surrenders and says, okay, if this makes me a religious fool, I'm still all in. I don't care. I want to know. I don't want this thing to hold me back. And if people see me as a weirdo and or a religious fanatic or whatever, that's fine. I don't care. So how the expression is for you might be completely different, but there are ways that are common, and it is to sing bhajans, for example, to have a puja table, to bow, to have pictures of a teacher that inspires you, or a deity that gives you this sense of beingness and that you can connect with. Those things are very helpful if you feel connected to that. I have heard other people who and still have a strong longing and feel like nature is doing it for them. They just go into the forest, they bow to the trees, and they bow to nature itself. And so I think there are many ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
I hope that answered your... Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Yes.
I feel in great company here.
And I thought that it's a very fitting question that you had, because I thought we would sing a little bit. About those.
I don't think.
You don't see it. No, it's quite simple bhajans. You can just follow, I think. Did everyone get one? To give you... I have more. Do we lack two? Nataraja, Nataraja, Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja. Nataraja, Nataraja, Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja. Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om. Nataraja, Nataraja, Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja. Nataraja, Nataraja, Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja. Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om. Nataraja, Nataraja, Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja. Nataraja, Nataraja, Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja. Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om. Nataraja, Nataraja, Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja. Jaya Mata Kali, Jaya Mata Durga, Jaya Mata Kali, Jaya Mata Durga, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Durga, Namo Namah. Jaya Mata Kali, Jaya Mata Durga, Jaya Mata Kali, Jaya Mata Durga, Kali Durga, Namo Namah, Kali Durga, Namo Namah. Kali Durga, Namo Namah. Kali Durga, Namo Namah. Kali Durga, Namo Namah. Jaya Mata Kali, Jaya Mata Durga, Jaya Mata Kali, Jaya Mata Durga, Kali Durga, Namo Namah. Kali Durga, Namo Namah. Jaya Mata Kali, Jaya Mata Durga, Jaya Mata Kali, Jaya Mata Durga, Kali Durga, Namo Namah. 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 Jaya Mata Kali, Jaya Mata Durga, Jaya Mata Kali, Jaya Mata Durga, Kali Durga, Namo Namah. Kali Durga, Namo Namah. Jaya Mata Kali, Jaya Mata Durga, Jaya Mata Kali, Jaya Mata Durga, Kali Durga, Namo Namah. 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 Most people don't know their spiritual thirst. They don't know what they're really longing for because we are so distracted. And this is the purpose of sadhana, of your meditation practice, to come back to time and time again. To make a conscious decision to be aware of this moment. The beauty of that space is that it shows you. If you push something away, if you have a belief that hinders you, all those things can be shown. But you need space. And beyond your daily practice, it's beautiful to come for retreats. We have been planning some more of those. So there's a possibility to go in depth with these things. And we try to make them so that you always can participate also online if you don't have the possibility to come in person. And if you want to support this forum, you can always give a donation. That is very appreciated.